Hello again, everybody. Welcome to the final day of Booktubeathon. I hope you guys have had tons of fun this week. I know I have. Been a lot of stress, and I haven't necessarily gotten through as many books as I wanted, but I still have until I go to bed tonight, so I think we'll be okay-ish for me to get another one. Anyway, that means that it is also the final video challenge, and the last video challenge isn't much of a challenge at all. This one was done by Ariel Bissett, who is actually the one who runs the whole Booktubeathon, and instead of doing book dominoes, which apparently she does almost every year, which actually would have been fun to do, but I kind of accidentally did with the Say My Name challenge anyway, so that one's kind of done. She wanted us to get a little bit sentimental, and instead to tell a reading story. So basically we pick a book that had some kind of eventful instance or some kind of meaningful story or just some sort of significance to you as a reader, and then we share that story with all of you lovely people. So, for this challenge I have decided to pick I Tell You I Love You, But Then I'd Have to Kill You by Ali Carter. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with the series. It came out like a good 10 or 11 years ago, but this is the series that actually got me into reading. And I don't mean reading in the sense of reading in general, because I've always loved reading. When I was little, all those Rainbow Fairy books and Geronimo Stilton, and you could not get me out of the book. But most people, for instance, will pick Harry Potter as a book that really turned them into a reader. For me, I didn't read Harry Potter until a couple years later when I was in 8th grade. And this one I read when I was in grade 6. I was like 10 or 11 years old, and this is what really turned me into the proper, full, obsessive reader that I am now. Get it? Like obsessions of bookaholic. This is what made me an obsessive bookaholic. Okay, so this book is about a girl named Cammie who happens to go to a school that is secretly a school for spies. She meets this guy outside of her school, and she's really, really intrigued. It's an all-girls school, so it doesn't really have that much opposite gender interaction. Anyway, she meets this guy Jake, and she really, really likes him, so she doesn't tell him anything about her school, and she secretly enters into a relationship with him under an alias, and known only to her best friends and roommates, not to her mother, who happens to be the headmaster slash principal slash whatever. I don't know how many of you guys had those like scholastic book forms and stuff like that when you were in elementary or grade school, but I did. So basically what happened was every couple of weeks we would get this new flyer, and in the flyer would be a bunch of different books. And then we could fill out the little order form at the bottom of it, and we picked the books that we wanted to order, and in a couple of weeks we would get those books to come in. They would be delivered to class, and we would get them at the end of the day. We had a couple of different versions of these. So we had one for the primary, younger kids in the elementary school, and then ones for the grades 6, 7, and 8. So I was waiting, biding my time for so long to actually finally get those big kid scholastic forms, even though you're still only like 10 or 11 by the time you get to grade 6. Like, you're not even that much of a big kid, but you feel so special. And then I finally got in, and the first couple weeks of school, and they gave us those older kids forms, and it was like everything just sort of came together and my life was made. This was one of the first books that I ordered off of that grown-up scholastic form. When I got it, I was beyond excited to tear through it. I'm like, oh my god, this is a big kid grown-up book. I've never read one of these. What is it gonna be like? And started reading it that night. And I didn't put it down. And then, I think it was the next morning or a couple of mornings later, we were packing up to go to our trailer for the weekend, and the entire ride there, I was reading it. I remember I'm like 11, so this is a short book, but it was still a longer read for me when I was younger. Get to the trailer, we walk inside, my entire family's unpacking and getting ready for the weekend, and I'm walking around with my book in one hand, trying to read like this while I carry my bags around the whole room and try to put all my clothes away while I'm reading. My parents are laughing and just watching me from the couch, and I am so wrapped up in this that I can't even put it down. But either way, this book sort of was the first book to make me, I felt like a grown-up reading it. It's about a 15-year-old, like, it's not even that much of a mature theme or any of that kind of thing, but I felt grown up, and I felt older, and I felt like I had this secret with the book, because there were things that I weren't used to, like swearing and different kinds of loving relationships and kissing, and I was like, oh my god, what is this? I feel older now. And I was like 10 years old, but it just made me feel like an adult of a sort. And then, because of this, because I became such an avid reader, and I got especially into this series, I was walking around my school library one day, and I was really good friends with that librarian, man. She loved me. She loved me, and I loved her, and we had this really great book relationship going on. And I was walking around with it, and she saw me, and she's like, oh, Brittany, you reading that? I was wondering if those were any good for me to bring to the library. And that is how I became a librarian sort of consultant for what books could and should not be put into our school library for everybody else to read. And then all of a sudden I seemed to have this reputation among my own classmates for being like the reader kid. and then all of my friends would be like, oh, hey, Brittany, I'm reading this book. Have you read that one yet? Is this one any good? Oh, did you hear about this one? I'm reading it. Or what about this one? Like, I'm thinking about reading it, but do you know if it's any good? Because I'm really, really looking into it. And then all of a sudden it happened is like, no, I haven't heard of that one, but give me like 2 days and I'll go buy it, I'll go read it, and I'll report back to you. Or yes, I have read that one and it is as good as you think it is. Or yes, I've read it and it wasn't very good, but maybe read this one instead. And that is how I essentially turned into the person, reader, obsessive, whatever, that I am today in all of my obsessive reader glory. And it's all because of this lovely book here about spies and romance and high school. That is it for my reading story. I know it's not like a crazy, super fun and intense, adventurous, interesting story, but that is a story basically of how I started reading, so it is a very, very special book to me, and I guess a very special story to me as well. So I hope you guys at least somewhat enjoyed hearing about that. I also really hope you guys enjoyed this whole Booktubeathon in general. Thank you so much for watching. If you watch any of my other videos, please thank you very much for watching those ones, any of the other Booktubeathon stuff, just everything in general. I hope you guys are more successful in your reading than I was. I have read 3 books. I read Tangled Webs, I read Dune, and I read Kiss of Deception. Those are 3 of the 7 books that I'd chosen. I also sort of read Red Queen, which I remember I mentioned, then I wasn't sure because I'd read 100 pages the night before, but technically it was after midnight, so I didn't know whether to count it or not, so I sort of discounted it. But if we do count it, then I have read 4 out of the challenge's 7 books, and in my last video I mentioned that I thought I should probably get through 5, and I only have about 100 pages left to a 5th book, so I know I will get through those ones for sure, and then I'm going to see if I can get through another one before I go to bed tonight, maybe 1.5, maybe 2, who knows when I'm going to go to bed. I will stay up. I will stay up as long as I must in order to get this done. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I guess with that, together we will say goodbye to the Booktubeathon 2017.